Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. My apologies about that. Thank
All
you.
good, all good. So yeah, what inspires you? What inspired you to pursue your career, and what motivates you to keep doing the work that you do? So y'all could let that sit in, let it marinate. Really, yeah.
I can kick it off. I think I kind of pursued this career as I started as a failure in learning music. So I had a pretty strong passion for music, and I was terrible at it. So all my friends started, getting in bands and doing that stuff. And then I started making graphics for their bands. And I'd always like dabbled with art and, took art classes in high school. And my grandmother kind of taught me how to paint and draw and stuff like that. My brother's really big into art. So it took a long time for me to realize that this could be a career, making graphics for people and doing designs and stuff like that. So, from there, after, high school and stuff like that, I got really big into skateboarding and it kind of progressed with music as well. So I started doing graphics for board companies and stuff like that. And, so it's really music and skateboarding that kind of propelled me into a graphic design career.
Thank you. Yeah, just real quick. See, that's another thing that I learned as well. Like, things can always change for you. So I always tell, like, I'm 22. I have many more years to go, but everybody, direction changes. Everybody's path is different, no matter what, no matter how long it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got out of high school, I actually thought I was going to be an art teacher. That's what I went to college for, because I didn't really understand what graphic design was at the time. And it was through, being in art school that I made that transfer to the design school, so to speak, and never really looked back.
Thank you.
Lauren, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So I guess I never really had any I don't have a strong background in art, I suppose. Like, I always drew growing up, but I didn't go to art school, and I haven't taken an art class since maybe middle school. But I don't know, when I was in maybe 10th grade, this would have been like 2009, I just saw an ad for Super Jail on Adult Swim, and I liked the style, and it made me just suddenly decide that I wanted to get into animation. And so that was something I got into on the side. I would doodle a lot in class, and I was always sketching, but I was afraid of going to art school. So I went on to get a degree in psychology because, I don't know, I was worried that if I had a BA in fine arts that I would be limited to that. And I figured I could always get involved in the arts on the side and teach myself. I had the whole internet, I guess, and YouTube and whatever to give me tutorials. So I stayed really busy with internships during college. I interned at actually the studio that did Super Jail, Augenblick Studios in Brooklyn. And I interned at Comedy Central and, God, a local PBS station, Adult Swim, and another one I'm forgetting. I did 5 internships, most of them based out of New York City. So I'm assuming most of you are based in New York. There's so many opportunities out there. Like, I don't know what I would have done if I had stayed home in Georgia, but there's just so much at your fingertips.
I agree.
And eventually I just landed at Adult Swim. It was my last internship, and I worked as a designer in the digital department for a long time. And we had a restructuring recently. So now I'm with the creative group working as an animator.
And Lauren normally has a bird on her shoulder. Where do you have your bird around you?
It's in that cage right there.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I actually have two birds now. I just got this bird, and there's somebody in the audience named Pilar, and the bird is also named Pilar, but Pili for short.
So adorable.
Thank you.
And these guys, both Lauren and Trey, are some of the most talented people I've worked with. The great thing about the talent at Cartoon Network and Adult Swim is that everybody comes from such different backgrounds and have different approaches to the art and design that they've been doing. And so everybody has such different, multiple disciplines, and they all bring something different to the table. So that's what I love about the creative groups that are run out of these studios. And I'll tell you a little bit about me. I kind of just fell into this whole thing. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I'm assuming you guys were about the same age, that I was just absolutely confused about what I wanted to do. But I was really into, comics and early Simpsons, a lot of music, a lot of skate culture and all of that. And I'm gonna really date myself. I fell into this, like, we didn't have social media, the internet was young. So we didn't really have any of these tools that you guys have at your fingertips. I couldn't put my portfolio online instantly. So I walked around Atlanta with a pile of paintings and ended up at Cartoon Network so nervous I couldn't even speak when I was like 20 years old. And the art director at the time looked at those paintings and was like, let's bring you in. You seem talented. And then, so I just started as a designer, and that was 21 years ago. And that was before Adult Swim. So once Adult Swim started, I started art directing there, and that's where it kind of really took off.
Got it. So like you were there when, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's funny because I got offered the job when right before my daughter was being born, my first daughter. So she's 21, and I always base my time at Cartoon Network based on her age, which is kind of funny.
Mm. So you're like a legend, basically, if we want to say.
No. How old are you guys, majority of you? Like, what's your age range?
Well, I'll just start off. I'm 22. Everybody else can throw your age range out there.
Cool. I've seen in the chat, we got 15, 18, 19. Okay. All the way down to 14. And there's an old one. Elijah's old. Oh no, Jamel. Elijah's 16. Okay, cool. Yeah, look, you guys probably won't figure out what you're gonna want to do until you're in your mid-20s. Literally, it can be a really confusing time. And my 21-year-old is actually in her third year of art school. I never had any traditional training. I kind of dropped out of art school, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I've been really trying to push my kids to be to work in a lot of disciplines, so illustration, design, animation, so that they're more well-rounded and they can kind of fit into different places depending on what's needed of you. So that's one of my biggest learnings, is to kind of just have a lot under your belt so that you're not just good at one thing.
Definitely.
But you can kind of show up and be anything,
I agree with that. Thank you. I'm gonna actually start with our popcorn questions, because there's like a bunch of them, so we could like have enough time to really dive into it. Oh, actually, wait. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Wait, Oh, yes. Abby did not go. I'm so sorry. There we go. I know I wasn't tripping. Sorry.
Oh gosh, I didn't know I was speaking. I have a very different background. I'm kind of the person who like abandoned my art, if you will, in some form or fashion. I went to school for printmaking at Savannah College of Art and Design. I've always been a creative person, but I think I made a decision pretty early on that like I wanted to keep my art sacred for me and me only. I didn't really want to like make a living or like sell my work exclusively. And you know, very business minded. My dad is a corporate banker, so he was always very much influencing me to like have a stable income and like be really thoughtful about that. He really worried about me being an artist, and so at the same time really influenced me to be thoughtful about you know, and so did a lot of my mentors, about finding a different way to like make a living and make an income so I could do my art, so it could supplement me, so I could do my art on the side and not have to feel like I was just making work to sell or for the industry. So I kind of dived into nonprofit work pretty heavily in my post-collegiate like entry into the world, and really kind of fell in love with fundraising. And so for the last 5 years, I worked for Contemporary Arts Center here in Atlanta doing fundraising and a little bit of communications and marketing, and just kind of decided within the last year or so that I wanted to be on the other side of the table. Instead of asking people for money, I wanted to be able to be on the deciding end, to be able to make the connections with nonprofits and utilize the power and the impact of the corporate responsibility to funnel into the nonprofit. So I was really blessed last April to land what I would call my dream job, which is corporate social responsibility. So this amazing job, this amazing career allows me the freedom and flexibility to be able to do my creative pursuits on the side and kind of keep that as something that I hate to call it a hobby, because I think it's a lot more than that. To me, you know, I still have shows and galleries and stuff like that, but for me, it's a little bit less of a focus and more about exploring that stuff when I really have the space and freedom in my mind to do it.
Thank you, Abby. Yes, to start with our popcorn questions. The first question actually is what Jacob hinted at, which is getting a lot of things under your belt, a lot of experiences. So this question is, what's something you wish you knew before pursuing your career? Yeah.
I wished I'd known more about people skills and public speaking, because a lot of the work that we do is like really selling your ideas, right? So really kind of speaking intelligently about your work is really important, which can be really difficult for creative people sometimes, especially me. I have a hard time forming words most of the time. And so that was a hard pill for me to swallow, was to like stand up in front of a room and present my work. So I think those skills are super important.
Thank you.
I'll oh, am I muted? Sorry.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, good. I'll echo what Jake was saying a little bit earlier. I'm a little older as well, and you know, there was a time before all social media and, you know, the rise of the internet and everything. And I think that what I wish I would have known before I got started was the possibilities that are out there for making art and making a living from it. When I got started, I had such a narrow mind frame of what I could do. You know, I had mentioned that I wanted to be an art teacher, and I thought that was the only solution to make art and make money. So when I realized that graphic design was out there, it kind of opened up a world. And then I had a very narrow entryway into design. I immediately left school and worked for a very corporate design firm doing like advertising and branding. And it's not necessarily something that I was super interested in. I gained a lot of knowledge from it and a lot of work experience. So, I mean, I can recommend that. But, you know, now seeing how the world is connected, and even remote work that we're doing now, where you can live somewhere and you can have a career all the way across, the world doing things that you love. So I think it's a really unique time to just soak up the possibilities that are available to you.
For me, it's kind of similar to what Jacob expressed. For me, it's more about like learning how to communicate effectively with managers and how to advocate for myself and to navigate a workspace that's, I would say it's dominated by men for the most part. And that's fine. But I've definitely, it's been a work in progress. And yeah, I guess it just it falls in the category of people skills.
Thank you. Abby, you care to share?
There we go. Okay, I'm in this now. All right. I think, we're all like referencing stuff that you said, Jake, but the thing about how you're encouraging like your kids to like explore multiple different mediums, like that's something I feel like I really pigeonholed myself in by having like a very niche degree at SCAD. Like literally my degree was printmaking. It was one antiquarian process that requires like a lot of materials, like, really old machinery, and like there's a lot of chemicals that go into like cleaning, and it's just like not a very sustainable art form. And so like, I'm always looking back on thinking like, man, I really wish I had taken a ceramics course. I really wish I had taken a painting course. I really wish I had actually explored a little bit more when it came to digital art making. Like I really kind of only focused in on one craft. And I think in my artistic pursuits, it's really limited me now post-college without access to all the things that I had in university. Like, that's the thing about going to a university like SCAD is you have literally anything you could possibly need and want to make work with. Like the sky's the limit. And then when you leave and you don't have that anymore, it's like, oh, okay, like I have to get really scrappy and think a little bit differently about how I'm going to make work now, especially particularly as a printmaker. So there's a part of me that really wish that I had explored some other mediums so I would feel a little bit more prepared to kind of try some different things out. But I think it also helps refine you as an artist and as a maker and a creator to be able to do that. And if you can't do it yourself, collaboration I think is really key. So like making sure that like, okay, I can't do this, so like who's my friend who can, and then that will help teach you too to collaborate and be able to be resourceful where you may not have the skill set someone in your community might. So those are the two things that I think I always go back to.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is something that anyone interested in your field should be prepared for? Like, what would be the heads up?
A lot of rejected ideas, like a ton. I think one of the earliest lessons in a creative person's world is, to sort of not take everything so personally. I know it was a really hard lesson for me to not think that what I was presenting every time was amazing. And with time, you just kind of, you learn that only about 10% of the work that you're going to do is actually going to make it. And that's pretty high percentage. So I would say, just prepare yourself for like having a lot of scraps on the table.
I could imagine.
And don't take things too personally.
Thanks.
Yeah, that is actually very important. But I think I would say never stop learning is a huge thing. Most of the people that I work with and the people that we hire to collaborate with are just like avid learners, right? You're learning new skills, you're learning new approaches to the work. I don't think that we could do what what we do for Adult Swim if we weren't always trying to better ourselves constantly. And it kind of goes into the approach that Jake was talking about earlier, is that the age of the what's the word I'm looking for? The doing one set design or illustration approach, like that's kind of gone now. It's you really need to be a generalist in everything, and you're never gonna get there if you feel like your education stops when you leave high school or college, etc. Like, so, never stop learning.
Thank you.
That's actually exactly what I was going to say. I guess I'll just bounce off of that. There's just constantly emerging technology. There are always going to be new programs that you have to learn. And there's always going to be, a younger workforce emerging at all times. And they know all the new trades and skills and programs, and you have to keep up. And yeah, like I said earlier, just keep using the internet as a resource and go to YouTube and use tutorials.
Yep, I agree. And then it's right here for us. All the answers is there. Thank y'all. Our next one is, what are your most important tips for choosing a creative career?
I would say passion. I know that might not be like an easy thing to nail down, but if you aren't passionate about the things that you're pursuing, they'll never last. So, and you can, we work with a lot of creatives and, really talented people, and you could quickly see the ones who have the passion for it and the ones who treat it, just like a 9-to-5 job. So there's success in following your passions, and I think ultimately you'll be happier for doing that as well.
Oh, there goes a bird.
There's the bird.
She wanted to come out.
There we go.
She wants to answer questions, Lauren.
Yes. So, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. What was the question?
What are your most important tips for choosing a creative career?
Oh man, I would say it's a balance. If you want it to be your career and you want to support yourself with it, it's a balance of, practicality and passion. You can always, pursue a non-art related career and use that to support your creative endeavors. But if you want it to be your main paycheck, it is important to consider how lucrative the path you're choosing is. Like, if sometimes you have to go into more commercial work, sometimes you have to go into advertising and the like, because that's where the money is. And sometimes you're very lucky and you can work without any creative oversight and, sell your work directly to people. It all depends, but there has to be some kind of balance between profitability and your interest in the field.
Thank you.
I think that's a great point. I'll kind of piggyback on that and just say, I think in order to kind of figure out how to make money at doing this field of work, you have to really kind of try to figure out how to monetize the work that you're doing, right? So like, how do you, and that's the thing I keep talking to my oldest kid about, is like, yes, you can do all of that crazy, weird shit, that you want to do, but how does that fit into, how does that fit into a portfolio? And then how does somebody look at that work and say, that person can do this illustration for me, or that person can do this piece of animation for me, or they have, the right kind of style. So I think a lot of it is really refining yourself into, trying to figure out how to monetize yourself. And one of the other big learnings that I've had is, if you're dead set on getting a job at Cartoon Network or getting a job at some cool studio that's doing really awesome social stuff or whatever, then you know, cater your portfolio or curate your portfolio around what they specify in, right? So like if you're going into an interview in a week to Cartoon Network, then that portfolio better have some work in it that I can look at it and go, look, I totally see how you could fit in here. Because otherwise, you know, you kind of come at it from left field, and it's always good to kind of cater to what you're looking for. It's kind of like that Oprah wall thing, right? Putting up stuff on a bulletin and envisioning yourself in that position. It's just, you do that with your portfolio.
And to quickly piggyback on what Jake's saying, like, because I'm sure the question is, okay, so you want to get this job at Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, or whatever, show the work that would get you that job. How do you get the work to show, to present in order to, you know, have that interview? I wouldn't wait on having clients and stuff. When I was, you know, fresh out of school, I found the work that would align with the direction I wanted to go. Some of the projects were completely personal projects. Some of them I did for free. And I'm not necessarily advocating for doing free work for a ton of people, but I do think that there's this kind of mental gap of like, how do I get the kind of work I want to do so that I can get the job I want? And sometimes you kind of have to fill that gap however you can, be it through personal projects or even maybe some free work. Some of the free work that I did years ago has followed me, you know, 15 years later, and it's turned into paid work. So, you know, don't be scared of those kind of opportunities.
That's a great point. It's like, stay up late, give yourself personal projects and deadlines. Like we were learning at a time without the internet. So we didn't have YouTube tutorials. We had to go to school and be physically there to understand how to make things. You guys can sit from anywhere you are and learn things and then create portfolios, just, you know. And so I think really staying motivated and on top of yourself and building that portfolio, even if you don't have clients, like Trey was saying, I think that's all really important. I mean, I walked in to Cartoon Network and I'd never had a creative job, ever. I just, you know, I had built my portfolio out of my head.
Okay, so basically just being strategical and just willing to take those risks in a sense. Yeah. All right, thank you. Our next question, this is personal. Well, not really too personal, but basically it's, what has been a challenge for you in your field? Got the heads thinking.
Yeah.
Take our time. I could do rock, paper, and scissors if y'all want to figure out who's going to go first. I got it.
That one's tough. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but are you looking for something that's like a yeah, I don't know. Jake, do you have anything?
You know, I think honestly, it's kind of what Lauren was hinting at earlier. Not that I've been challenged with it, but I think a lot of people are challenged with the fact that a lot of leadership doesn't have a lot of diversity in it. There's a lot of ceilings, there's a lot of walls for individuals. I'm the only Latin person I know at the network, really, in any managerial role at all. And so sitting at the table, I'm like, oh, the only half brown person, you know? So I think that a lot of like what Lauren was saying, I think it is dominated by men. It's you know, it is not as diverse as it should be. And I think we're getting there with the past few years of change that's happened. But I think that can be a real challenge, is just opening it up to everyone to have an opportunity at that growth and those opportunities.
Appreciate it. Anybody else that feel like they had any challenges at any given moment?
I think for me, it's been time management. Animation is extremely time consuming, especially when you're doing like two-dimensional, like hand-drawn cell animation on a computer. I mean, it's definitely faster than, you know, on paper with pencil, but it has its challenges. And sometimes people don't know how long it takes, and you don't know how long it's going to take. And there have definitely been times when I've like burned the midnight oil trying to finish something on time. And so I don't know if I have any particular advice for combating that other than just, you know, I went out and bought myself a paper agenda to fill out, but it's been definitely a struggle over the years. And Jake, by the way, I am half Colombian, so I don't know if that makes you feel any better.
Hey, I would have never known.
Yeah, I mean, my last name, it's my dad's name, so.
Yeah, so if anybody doesn't have an answer to that one, we're gonna open it up to our youth, any of our staff, to ask any questions, any lingering questions that they have, that's itching to let it out. I could go ahead, I could drop it in the chat, I could say it out. If y'all want me to start, I'll start it off for y'all. I don't mind. Let me see first, let me make sure. I think I'll start it off. I'm gonna start it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I see Elijah's hand.
Elijah? Oh, yeah, I don't have it in gallery view, that's why.
It's okay, I can see it. Elijah, you wanna come off mute?
Yeah, oh God. So, sorry, I'm so excited to, be getting questions and stuff like that because I'm excited. So these questions are more going to be like heavy hitter sort of way, so don't feel pressured to answer them. But yeah, I just wanted to like ask, like for the representation, especially when it comes to media, how do you think it changed over time when it came to, kids watching, actually like, young adults watching the old shows and now coming to the new shows where like, we have Steven Universe, which is, kind of like part of the LGBTQ community. We have, it's random, like Gumball, like, that's very diverse, with, when it comes to, political stuff, social stuff. I mean, how do you think it came, like it changed over time when it came to animation and how things work?
I think I understand your question. How did animation and how did cartoons kind of change over time? Is that what you were?
Yeah, like how did it change? I mean, it was really good, but how
like
did
from a cultural perspective?
Yeah, like a cultural perspective. How did the shows that we used to watch change over time, especially with now today's society? Like, do you think like the stuff that you're doing is changing for the better, and like in what way?
That's a really great question. Yes. In the past, literally only like 5-6 years has there been a really big shift in the types of shows we're making, specifically on the Cartoon Network side. And now it is reaching into the Adult Swim side. And that is finding a diversity in voices and finding a diversity in talent, and then finding a diversity in the representation of character, right? So I think what you're kind of going for here is, like, for instance, on Cartoon Network, one of the bravest shows for kids that I've known is Steven Universe, in that it brought the LGBTQ conversation center stage to kids and families, and really was very progressive for bringing that conversation to pop culture in general. And with time, we've started to see, Mexican creators bringing Victor and Valentino, bringing the Latin voice to representation, and then Craig of the Creek, and on and on. We're really focused on bringing a lot more diversity to the table, and really focused on that wholeheartedly. On the Adult Swim side, I think there's been a lot of diversity in terms of creators for Adult Swim. There's always been a really big mix of shows. Like, you've had Black Dynamite, the Jellies.
Those are, oh my
On
God.
and on. I'm just saying, so, and then the shift for Adult Swim has been to incorporate more female-led shows. So now we're starting to see diversity in that way on Adult Swim, and that is with like Tuca and Birdie is one of our focuses right now. Does that answer your question, or am I way off?
Oh no, that answered my question. I just wanted to know because when it comes to Cartoon Network, I feel like a lot changed, especially with diversity. I feel like there's been a shift, a very good shift, I would say. I see clips on YouTube, on a Cartoon Network YouTube channel or something like that, where people the animators from Steven Universe are talking about, the real history behind, the person who made the light bulb, or their influence in, making the light bulb and stuff like that. And I just feel like that was very good, and how teaching the real stuff and not what people perceive it as.
I think too, and maybe this is taking too macro of a view, right? But it's kind of a cultural conversation as well, because the youth, you're all responsible for changing the networks, right? So as you creatives go out into the world and start making art and stuff that you care about, the old guard, so to speak, that didn't understand inclusivity and progressiveness and stuff, they start to fall away and be replaced with more progressive and forward-looking creators, content producers, etc. And then by that nature, the networks become even more incredible and inclusive of everyone. So I think it's a natural progression as well.
And I think
Also,
so much of it, oh, sorry. So much of it has to do with it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. You're asking how these things became more diverse and representative. And I think most of it just comes down to who is making the programming, because generally people will write stories reflective of themselves and their culture. And if you're only hiring straight white men to make all of your shows, that's largely what you're going to get. So when they did have Rebecca Sugar make Steven Universe, I think part of the reason that it discusses LGBT issues and focuses on a lot of female identifying characters is that it comes from a woman, or at least I think it's actually, she might be agender or something, but just in addition to that, there's also Tiffany Ford, who's a writer on Craig of the Creek, having Black people actually writing stories about Black children is it's super important. And so ultimately it comes down to who you're hiring in terms of talent.
Absolutely. It starts there. And I think that's what makes it important is, starting from the creator and making sure that there is an authentic voice in that work, and not just doing it because it has to be done. doing it because these people are living that. You know, and I will say it's time. It's your time. It's everybody's time now to really have a voice. So, you know, I think more than ever, you got to really jump on it and get in there, because the door is open right effing now.
All right. Chip actually had a question. We'll let you jump in.
Yeah, this one's for Jacob, but anyone can answer if they find it's also applicable to them. Given your economic and educational / work background, what advice would you give to someone who is like, I don't want to say hopeless because I feel like that's a very strong word, but kind of in limbo about their future and finds himself struggling to survive under capitalism, especially like during the pandemic, and what kept you going through like all the side hustles and hard hustling jobs that you had?
Dude, I've had every job under the sun before I hit Cartoon Network. I mean, I laid tiles in bathrooms. I worked at Burger King. I literally have done I was a loan processor 2 weeks before I went into Cartoon Network because I didn't know how to get in. And you know, nobody really taught me how to do it. So really, it was me staying up all night and working on my portfolio and just knowing I had it in me. And I would pay my bills, do my work in the day, all that shit work that nobody wants to do. And I knew that there was something bigger that I was going for. And that gave me enough energy to get the work done and to power through and build a portfolio to where I could go into Cartoon Network and just go, here I am, you know, with no experience, take me in. There is no shame in, you know, cleaning a toilet at a gas station after a UPS driver comes and pees all over it. That's what I had to do while I was drawing at night. You know, I've had so many grunt jobs. So just power through that and just know if you've got it in you, just, you know, work hard.
Thank you, Jacob. Pilar, you could go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if this question will make sense, but I feel like I can like look at a TV and kind of guess that the show that's on is from Cartoon Network because there's like kind of a similar, maybe not look, but style. So I was just wondering for like animation and illustration design stuff, like, do you find that your own style is being influenced by like the Cartoon Network style, or do you find that the cartoon like okay, sorry, let me rephrase this. Do you think that your job has more effect on your own personal style than your personal style has on your job or the work you're doing?
That's a great question. I think with time, we've sort of built a house style, but based on the house styles of all these shows, right? I worshipped the original lineup of cartoons on Cartoon Network, which had the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, Cow and Chicken, and Ed, Edd n Eddy. I hated Ed, Edd n Eddy though. But I studied, you know, the style of those shows and was incorporating the style of that, how, you know, it was so influential in early cartoons on television. So I think Cartoon Network has influenced animation in general. And then with time, like we built our in-house creative groups, and they contribute to the overall look of the brands. And so they bring their own style into it. Like Trey has his own styles that he does, and he brings a lot of interesting styles to the table, and same with Lauren. So I think it's kind of a back and forth scenario. Anybody else want to answer? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I think that's exactly it. Especially with Adult Swim, we've kind of positioned ourselves in a way to not necessarily have a style. It's more about trying to find authentic work from creators who we really enjoy or that we would love to work with. We have a huge wish list, and so we bounce around a lot. And I think that happens because the people who built Adult Swim from the very beginning, including Jake, they were looking at creativity as a spark to lead them in a direction. So that could mean anywhere from an absurdist cartoon to a more traditional live action show with actors and stuff. And we've just kind of used that as a springboard to do collaborations with people. And it's like Jake said, sometimes that person that we hire will kind of lead the narrative or the direction visually for a while, and then sometimes it's the internal teams. So it's really kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Adult Swim has had any particular influence on how I draw, because it is all over the place. And I haven't really worked with Cartoon Network so much, so I can't really speak to that. But I think that, I don't know, working with Adult Swim has definitely encouraged me to explore many different styles and to break out of just drawing. I mean, I tend to draw really cartoony stuff that it often looks like it's made for children. So it's definitely like pressured me to expand my skill set and my ability to try different styles.
Yeah, and I think that's encouraged, and it almost becomes a mindset. It becomes your perspective to seek out new and interesting and absurd styles and stuff like that, to try to reinvent and reimagine the artwork that you're creating constantly. And I mean, it's a kind of an abstract thing to try and tell someone to kind of hone their perspective, but that's the kind of things that Jake and Lauren and I and Brandon and the other people on these teams look for, are people who are doing unique work that is truly their own, that we can collaborate with. And like I said, it's a bit abstract, but the sooner that you can kind of hone your perspective and, like Jake was saying, create the kind of work that you want to be doing, that will help you kind of hone that. And that mindset is key to the kind of work that we do.
Yeah, and I think we at Cartoon Network and Adult Swim have taken such a different approach to how we package these shows and how we promote them. It's not very traditional in a sense. Like, we're not the Nickelodeon and the Disney and the Netflix of the world. We have our own voice, we have our own looks, we have our own curatorial taste. We also have such varied backgrounds, and we want to incorporate all of that so that it becomes this really interesting curated space for people to have to pay attention to. I think because we're set in Atlanta, it kind of makes a big difference. We're not from a lot of our backgrounds aren't from entertainment, so we haven't been traditionally taught how to do things. And so a lot of our branding, a lot of our advertising, a lot of our promos and everything else that we're making are very different than what you would normally see out there. And so I think that approach and that uniqueness really gives us a perspective and a voice.
Thank you. Jennifer actually had a question next. You can go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, so like from what I gathered, like you guys started off like maybe like illustrators or like animators at some point, but then got into like some point a leadership role. I was just wondering, like, in terms of comparing the two, creative freedom and but then more responsibility, which would you feel like more? Like with an illustrator and animator, you have like more of a hands-on kind of approach to the project, but then as an art director, you have more of like you facilitate other people and like kind of like direct the process more. But yeah, I was
I
just
mean, honestly, I think that, being a director can be just as fulfilling creatively, to be collaborating and working with such talented people. We have so many different interesting people that we work with and that are on my teams. We're also building Cartoonito, which is this preschool brand right now, and that's been super exciting. And seeing what different people bring to the table, and I think I've evolved into becoming a leader that really tries to, work off of other people's strengths to make the thing better. And to me, that's just as fun as like drawing or creating my own thing. But at the same time, as I'm that busy managing all this other junk, I still like to keep my hand in it. So I'll occasionally dip in and have my own project, so I can still feel really connected to it. Anything else?
That that's perfectly stated. I think that it's such a good question, because yes, absolutely, as you progress forward in your career and as you receive those promotions or you become more of a leader, you definitely lose some of that freedom in making images or creating designs, illustrations, etc. There's just not enough time. So it is a balance, like Jake's saying, but I think he nailed it when he said it's just as fulfilling. It just takes you in a new direction, right? So originally I may have relied on really trying to develop and overperform in all sorts of different styles and stuff. And that is fulfilling, but as an art director now, I can still have that same vision or that creative idea, but now I can hire those collaborators and specialists that can help make the idea better than I really ever could have. So it becomes more collaborative in that way. And it is just equally as fulfilling, but you are right. You do lose a little bit of that hands-on approach from day to day of making your own work.
I will say there is a certain beauty to working at Turner in that we had the spirit of invention from the beginning, with Ted Turner creating 24-hour networks before the internet, for YouTube, before you could turn on any media. To be inspired to do 24-hour news, to be inspired to do 24-hour cartoons, that was pretty courageous, I would say. And that idea of invention has really stuck with us. And then the invention of Adult Swim came after that, and on and on. I think that now I'm losing where I was going with this. I think that's sort of been, I know what I was saying. I think they've given us some loose reins to kind of create our own departments within Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, and I think it's a really rare thing that we've been given, and so we don't treat it lightly. We're very appreciative of the space that we have, the voice we have at the table. I sit at the table with the head of Cartoon Network and the heads of and Warner Media and everything else, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity that they look at me and like trust our art and our opinions and our perspective.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you. Thank you. Charlize, you got the floor.
Hi. My question is for Lauren specifically. I know you touched upon a little bit about working in a male-dominated industry or field, and I was wondering, what was your first day like as presumably one of the only women working at that place?
Well, my first day at Adult Swim was as an intern, and I was with 2 other male interns, and my boss was a man, and it was fine. I mean, like, men are still people, presumably. And it was never, I mean, it was never something that struck me on my first day. It's just something that you learn to deal with over the years. And I guess certain imbalances become more evident on some days than others, but for the most part, you just learn to be one of the guys, I suppose. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
That makes me sad to hear, Lauren, that you just become one of the guys, I suppose. I think on the Cartoon Network side, we've had a female-led group over there. My art director is Candace House. She's incredible. Without her, nothing would get done at Cartoon Network. And I really strive to look to promote, from within, and really, it makes me sad to think that it is male driven. It very much is. I mean, I'm sitting here a man myself, but I do hope that people don't expect, that is a deterrent or a problem at all.
Yeah, and with that said, I mean, I have definitely encountered many proficient women in my department. We had technical directors, producers that were females in Adult Swim Digital. And I like to think that they carried the department in some ways. So I don't want my description of my first day to necessarily to color the whole experience. But the gender imbalance is there, and it is something to be aware of.
Ultimately, our boss is female too.
True.
Her name's Trisha Melton. And then the head of Warner Media right now is a female. So we're all female led all the way down.
Very true.
Yes, valid points, Lauren.
Thank you. We're going to take a few more questions. We're going to start with Anera.
Yes, I was having a question. So, since your work and shows on channel are viewed by a growing generation, do you establish priorities in promoting education messages?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
I think, Jake, if I caught it correctly, it was, I think it was promoting education messaging in the content. So that probably pertains to cartoon, I'm assuming, more than Adult Swim.
And I think in the way that the shows are marketed, in addition to the content of the shows.
Yeah, I think, well, with the development of Cartoonito, we've really strongly been led by education and the strategy of incorporating, an educational angle to a lot of the work that we're doing. So for preschool, that's very important. Just, having an underlying kind of educational angle to it. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the fact that we need to be funny and interesting. On the Cartoon Network side, I think we do have some educational moments within the different brands. I think there are moments where we attach ourselves to bigger initiatives, like Steven Universe did a big Dove initiative that was a big inclusive campaign. We do a big Stop Bullying initiative. Not that those are necessarily educational, but they are not necessarily comedy-based initiatives.
Fun fact, my coworker, I think, helped work on that PSA with the nonprofit that they promoted. So there's a lot of crossover in creative with the corporate social responsibility too.
That's very cool. I didn't know that.
Thank y'all. Kyle actually private messaged me to go up next. So Kyle, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Basically, how does someone like get to where you are, like?
Kyle, can you write that in the chat really fast? Hold on, Kyle. Hold on. I don't know if you can hear me.
Kyle, we're having a hard time hearing you.
You're in the gulag. You're in the gulag. Hold on. Hold on. There you go. Let's see. Let's see if he gets the message.
How do we get to where we are?
Okay. Okay.
For me, it was internships on top of internships. Like I wasn't like well connected or anything. I just strategically chose internships based on like where I wanted to be eventually. I was interested in working with Adult Swim, particularly because, well, I was just a fan of the network, and then B, I grew up in Atlanta or Metro Atlanta, and I liked the idea of being close to home. I was going to school in New York City, and I just didn't see myself living there long term. But I did do a ton of internships based in New York, and I specifically chose to intern at Augenblick Studios in Brooklyn because I knew they had a lot of connections with Adult Swim. They animate Super Jail, and I think now they're animating Teenage Euthanasia. But I actually got my internship directly from somebody who used to work there, and they put me in touch with somebody who was hiring, and they got me an interview. So I definitely think it's just a combination of luck, for sure, privilege, and just doing the research. And putting in the work, obviously.
I think that was perfectly said, Lauren. It is all about connections. It's all about getting your foot in the door and building connections to people, because it's a really hard industry to break into. It's really, really difficult to set yourself apart and to be recognized as somebody that brings something new to the table.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. I think it's always first. It really does. You go to, or if you don't go to school, if you've got the drive and you're creating the work, I'd say that's first and foremost. And then connections do go a long way. Like I had mentioned, I'd had a few jobs outside of college working for printing presses and stuff like that. I worked for that branding firm, and it just so happened that I was pretty unhappy I used to argue a lot with the owner, creative ideas, and I still showed up, I still did the work, and I put in my best effort all the time. But one day the creative director there asked me if I would be interested in interviewing for a job at Adult Swim. husband was the, you know, that was a connection that was, I think if I hadn't had put in all the effort that I was, that it may have just gone by the wayside, but she knew that I was committed to the job and she offered that up. And then I ultimately talked to Jake, talked to Brandon, and did this big design test that they gave me. So I didn't sleep or eat for 2 weeks to prove that I could.
Oh,
We're losing you.
yep, we lost him. Wait.
Hello?
Trey,
Okay,
you
there we
froze
go. You're
up.
back.
Am I back? Where did I lose you at?
You're back. No, it was just the tail end. We got most of what you were saying. Thank God you did that. You didn't fail that 2 weeks of no sleep.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. I didn't do a design test, but they seem grueling.
That's a tough thing, yeah. Did we answer the question?
We actually are close to wrapping up. Jamel, should we take one more or?
Yeah, I'll hop in because I do want to respect folks' time. I know some folks have other things to do. And there's actually more questions still pouring in. So maybe Abby will potentially talk about a part 2 in the near future. I guess to close out, it would be to the panelists, if you have like any final words or remarks you would like to leave with our participants, and then we could close out from there.
Oh, actually, just real quick, by any chance, how would anybody know how would anybody get like alerts about internships that is coming out soon in the near future? You know, is it like on the website, social media, anything? For anybody that's wondering if they wanted to step and try to get that opportunity.
Yeah, if you can still hear me okay. Turner or Warner Media has a really robust site for all of their job openings and positions that includes internships. It can be a little daunting at first because it covers globally. So make sure you use key searches for Atlanta area, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, that sort of stuff. But that should put you in the right direction.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, WarnerMediaCareers.com. Abby just put it in the chat. That's the one-stop shop.
All right, there we go. For the youth, there you go. You have it. Copy and paste it, screenshot it, write it down, all of that.
Yeah, thank you. I think this might be a good place to wrap up. I'm gonna ask for our students, please stay on, but again, the utmost in appreciation. Thank you so much to our panelists. We do have more questions. Again, if y'all could come back in the future, no rush, that would be nice. But thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your journey, and pieces of your story with us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Can we get a group photo?
Yeah, should we do we want to unpin or is this cool?
Yeah, let's remove it.
Whoa, is that a thing? A Zoom group photo?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Put my puppet face on.
And for the young folks, if you do feel comfortable hopping on screen, please do so. If not,
Let us know.
So good. I don't know if you could.
With some of you guys today, so don't make me call your name.
Christopher.
Oh, lucky believer.
Today.
No comment.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Count to 3. 3, 2, 1. Awesome.
There we go.
Thank thanks everybody for giving us the opportunity to talk to you. And yeah, let's keep the dialogue going. I see a lot of you guys are creative people, and I'd love to see the work you guys are doing, and definitely open for one-on-one discussions for advice and future connections. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all. Young people, please stay on. Please stay on. Let's just clap it up for our folks again as they depart. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. Abby, I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, take care. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, that did feel a little short. It's never enough time, unfortunately. Cool. So Groundswell folks, shout out to y'all. Those are some great questions. And I did get a lot more. They were trickling in at the end. So shout out to Jacob, who did say he would be open to connecting again. And hopefully we can get them back. So get some answers to those questions. But before we wrap up, y'all, I did want to introduce and reintroduce to some of you Sabrina, who is actually on. She just waved. Sabrina works here at Groundswell. I think, yeah, some of you know her from seeing her in the office before COVID, and also in some of our closing events and celebrations. Sabrina drops in. She's an amazing person, does a lot of work on the back end to support us, to support you, and communicate your artwork and success to funders and things like that. And also working on being connected more directly with you. So I am going to pass it over to Sabrina to talk more about what she'll be working with us on. And yeah, I said enough. Sabrina, it's on you.
Thanks, Jamal. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. It's probably been a long day of being on screen, so I'm going to keep it really short so everybody can head out soon. But hi, I miss all of you so much. What I did was, so it sounds like there's such a range of careers that you could go into the art field and even outside of the art field. And the panelists spoke about a bunch of different things that were really important to them in their careers. And so I took some notes on some of the things that came up for everybody. And I was hoping that we could just take a minute to identify, each of us can identify 3 things that are most important to us for our careers. And so the things that came up were passion, ability to change, adapt. Oh, sorry, I put this in the chat. Job is an intersection of multiple interests. I think it was Trey who talked about like skateboarding and a bunch of other things. Location, working with talented collaborators, a stable income, independence, and something else. So let's all just take 1 minute to identify our top 3. And then if you could throw them in the chat, that would be amazing. And because I think it's really interesting to think about, some of these things are dependent on career and some of them really aren't. So I'll give you 1 minute. Feel free to list out your 3 and pop them in the chat. See you in 1 minute.
Thank you, Sabrina. And again, it's 3 things that are the most important for you to have in your career. Looking good, y'all. Keep them coming.
This looks great. Thanks, everybody. Looking good. A lot of passion, a lot of stable income, And it's funny because they even brought up the difference between a stable income and a lucrative income. But I think stable income, we'll just pretend it's lucrative too. How about that? Not pretend, it's gonna be. All right, wonderful. And then maybe think about the last thing we'll do is, as you putting this in, and this is just for you to maybe think to yourself, is like, what's non-negotiable for your career? Of these things, you picked 3, but you can think to yourself of like, what's one of these things that I could not do without? And I think it's hard to say, yeah, passion's coming in. Totally. All right. That our exercise, and what we're going to do is actually, I'm going to take some of these, I'm going to take some of your top 3s and we're going to save them. And I'm actually going to do an activity with y'all next week, potentially anybody who's around. We're going to do some art making and reflection and some cool stuff around what seems to be most important. And that's it for this little exercise at the end. And I'll pass it back to Jamel, capture this chat, and I'll be seeing a lot of you all next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sabrina. And thank you, everyone. I'll see most of y'all tomorrow, virtual, some in person, some in studio. Great work, everyone. Friendly reminder, this Friday, we do have our next virtual event for the mural group with our artists who will be working with us. So that's 11. Check your emails, and that's it. Great work today, y'all. And yeah, see y'all soon. All right. Good to see y'all.
Thanks, Jamel. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Hey, everybody.
Bye. Bye, Nadir. Bye, Maya.